Hi, everyone. My name is Annie Cami Quo, and I am the project director at Stanford for the Cloudbase project. And in this video, we are going to go over Unit 2, which is titled Rights and Freedom. Let's get started. For those of you that want to follow along, you can go to Teaching Cloudbase on the Cloudbase website to be able to download the PowerPoints, the videos, and any other resources that we mentioned. You can also find all of the Cloudbase lessons, PowerPoints, and other resources, student workbooks, by going to the Cloudbase lessons. You can use the UR code or the tiny URL. All right. So for this unit, it's very similar to the previous unit where we start with cycle 0 and we move through cycle 1, 2, which are the reading cycles, and cycle 3, which is the writing cycle. Each of these cycles focus on a different type of question. Cycle 0 focuses on the unit question that is explored over the course of the 3 cycles. And each subsequent cycles have either a reading question or a writing prompt that the students will focus on. And throughout this video, feel free to pause to read the text on the PowerPoint or to download additional resources. So on this slide, you'll see that for each cycle, there are different resources, multimodal texts that students will be exploring. For each of the reading cycles, there will be a book and videos and also additional articles that students will read together. And for the writing cycle in cycle 3, they will be reading an example article that focuses on whether schools should get rid of grades. This slide shows you all of the unit materials that you'll need to teach this unit. From cycle 0, you'll see that there's a PowerPoint, some lesson plans, and cycle 1, 2, and 3, they also have PowerPoints, the student workbooks, as well as the lesson plans. And again, all of these materials can be found on the Cloudbase website. So let's jump into the different cycles. So Unit 2 starts with cycle 0, which is an introduction to the unit and the unit themes. For this one, the multimodal text is a video titled The Story of Human Rights. And this video can be found in the PowerPoint. That's for cycle 0. There are a few key vocabulary that you'll be going over with students, which are listed on this slide: freedom, rights, advocate as a verb, and advocate as a noun. After cycle 0, we jump into cycle 1, which is focused on Ivan, the book Ivan, the remarkable true story of the shopping mall gorilla. And for this cycle, there are 6 lessons, which is very consistent with all of the other reading cycles. For this cycle, the question is, which environments do you think protects animal rights the best? The wilderness, zoos, or our homes? So the materials you'll need for this cycle is the PowerPoint. There are a couple of PowerPoints, actually. The main PowerPoint that'll have vocabulary, and then there's 2 additional PowerPoints that will be used for word guess game, and I'll go over that in a little bit. You'll also need student workbooks for your kiddos, and of course the lesson plans. These are the multimodal texts you'll be exploring throughout the unit. So for lesson 1 and 2, you'll be going over the key vocabulary that are part of this cycle. And they're listed here as well as on the PowerPoint that you can download. And then once we move to lesson 3, there is a word guess game. So for this game, you'll download the 2 word guess PowerPoints. And this is where students have a chance to sort of play with language and play with vocabulary words. So you'll have a set of students that will be guessers, and a set of students that we will be describers. So the describers will describe the vocabulary word, and the guessers will, of course, guess what they are. This game is similar to Taboo, where the students aren't supposed to say the word, but use other words to describe it. And so this game can be played timed or untimed, depending on the based on the student's needs or how much or if time allows. You can do the first PowerPoint and then move to the second one if there is time. And then in lesson 4, you will be playing a second game, which is the morphology game. And for this one, you show students how to extract the base word from the bolded word in the sentence using ability as an example. So this is one of my favorite games because you're really breaking down the vocabulary words and helping students to see how you can make different words with that base word. We move then to lesson 5, where there'll be a mini lesson on object pronouns. There's an activity in the student workbook that you'll walk the students through. And then finally, for lesson 6, they will have a collaborative discussion around the cycle question, which is, which environments do you think protects animal rights the best? The wilderness, zoos, or homes? And with each of the lesson 6s and all of our reading cycles, we share the discussion norms. And so this is something you can go over with your kids too. In cycle 2, we are focused on Halito's big decision. And in this, for this cycle, the question is, do you agree with Halito's decision? Why or why not? What would you have done if you were in his shoes? The materials for this cycle is similar: PowerPoints, student workbooks, lesson plans. These are the multimodal texts that you will be exploring during the cycle. So the book, video, 2 videos actually, and an article on student activism. So we again start with lesson 1 and 2 and the key vocabulary. These will be the ones that they go over for the cycle. And then for in lesson 3, they'll be doing a word web graphic organizer. In lesson 4, it's a morphology lesson where they're, again, reviewing sort of word parts. They're taking a base word and being able, and students will be able to add a suffix to make the word something different. In lesson 5, they are going to be playing a game called Fanboys. It's Fanboys Connective. So there'll be 2 teams. Each team will pick a category and try to guess the correct fanboy word for the sentence. So how do you connect 2 phrases or 2 sentences? If the team gets the answer wrong, it's the other team's turn. The team with the most points at the end wins the Fanboys game. So you can take a look at the Fanboys Connectives guide on page 8 in the student workbook for more details. And lastly, for the Solito cycle, we also end with a collaborative discussion. And for the cycle discussion question, it is, do you agree with Holito's big decision? Why? What would you have done? So that concludes the 2 reading cycles. We then move on to the writing cycle. And for unit 2, the students will be writing an opinion piece, an op-ed. And we've planned this cycle out in 3 lessons, but you can, of course, extend it for additional revisions, for based on your students' needs. If they need additional time for planning, there's flexibility. The materials for this particular writing cycle are the PowerPoint, the student workbook, and the lesson plans, which is similar to what the other materials you'll need for the cycles. In the cycle, the students will start by reading a multimodal text that is titled "Should Schools Get Rid of Grades?" And so in this lesson, students will get exposure to what an op-ed looks like structurally, and have an example of how they can put together their own writing. So we, in the PowerPoint slide, will provide an explanation for what an op-ed is, which is an essay you write about an opinion you have about an important issue. An op-ed is usually published on a news website or newspaper, so lots of people can read about what you think. An extension of this activity, if you wanted to, could have your students publish their writing somewhere online. You could do like a class newspaper of some sort. And these are the prompts that we provided as an example, and it's based on the materials and the resources that students have explored through the reading cycles previously. So the first prompt is, should animals be held in captivity as pets or in zoos? Students could also choose the second prompt, which is, should we protest the unfair treatment of workers? And if those two don't really resonate with your kiddos, you could choose another issue that is important to them for them to explore. So, another resource we wanted to provide, which has a bird's eye view of each of the units, is the scope and sequence. And you can find this particular document on through this QR code, or it's on the website. We wanted to provide something that helped you see, what the progression was for each lesson and how the units are tied together. We hope that you really enjoy teaching this unit. If you have any questions, we would love to hear from you. You're welcome to email us at clavescurriculum@gmail.com.